Hey family, what's going on? Happy
y'all.
holidays to you and yours.
Yes.
We are in that in-between time between Christmas and New Year, and we have so much to talk about. Well,
Yeah.
really just one major announcement, and that announcement is, on the count of three, can I get a drum roll?
We're launching a church.
We're launching a church. That was really awkward. We didn't script this. As you know, you can go back to our other videos. We usually just get on the mic together, kind of process life. And so that was so unscripted. It kind of seemed a little bit underwhelming. Should we try that again? Okay. So we're launching a church on three. Okay. 1, 2, 3. We're launching a church. Well, yep, it is true. We are launching a church.
If you follow us on social media.
Yep, in Prince George's County, Maryland,
Yes.
we are launching a church. And we are, I don't know.
I think we're here to give the full story. If you want
Yes.
all of the details,
Let's
this
give the
podcast
full story. Yep.
will give you the full story, all
Yep.
the details.
Yep. Kind of like a BTS, behind the
Yes.
scenes type situation where it's not scripted and it's just us kind of talking through why and all
How
of
we
the
got
things,
here.
how,
Yeah.
why, what, when, all of the things. So, hey, if you have been watching our podcast or watching our episodes,
Watching his videos.
watching the videos, we want to first and foremost say thank you so much for just continued support. It means the world to us. It means the world to us. Okay. All right, here we go. So we are launching a church. Why? Or where do we start, Lou?
Let's start with how we got here.
How did we get
How
here?
did we get here?
Well, I think it starts off with our relationship. I
Yeah,
think
of
that's
course.
just the zenith of all of this. It starts with our relationship. Where do we begin?
2016.
So there was a stud. You know how the Bible talks about in 1 Samuel? It says now David
let's-
was a handsome
let's
man.
spare all the details
Rudy
so
in
we
his
can
appearance.
make sure that this is timely.
Elegance in his, I don't know.
Okay, come on.
All right. So no, so 8 years ago, going on close to 9 years ago, when I had approached Lou, just really to go out on a date, she was super hesitant. Why were you super hesitant?
So I, as Sam was just, pursuing me during that time, I just kind of sensed, I was like, this man is going to be in ministry. More specifically, he's going to be a pastor.
Had no idea.
And a little bit of background of me, I am a second generation pastor's kid. My mom was a pastor's kid. I grew up as a pastor's kid. So
Right.
I was able to kind of see it from a mile away.
Yeah.
But I told him, I said, I don't know about you. You about to be a pastor. And
And
he said, what are you talking about?
I had no idea. At that time, I was not ordained. At that time, I was just leading
We were
Bible
just college
studies in
students.
college.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, look, I just want to get to know you. Like a pastor, all of that stuff in the
Yeah.
prophetic, great. But are you my wife? Are you my spouse? And so anyways,
I'm trying to
she
eat
was
this
so
food, girl.
right. Because we were going on a dinner. So on a date, I said on a dinner. But yeah, so anyways, long story short, she was super hesitant about wanting to get into any kind of relationship with me because she just sensed that I would be a pastor someday. So we kind of already sensed early on in our journey of being together that we were going to be church leaders. Now, we didn't know to what gravity and to what extent that would be and look like, but we knew to some capacity that we were going to be leading a church specifically. We just knew that over our lives. She talks about it time and time again. Maybe you want to share a couple of stories even before meeting me, how serving in your dad's church for 20 plus years, some of the prophetic words that you've received over the years, different things like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So prior to Sam, and I think this is something that's really pivotal in our story, we both had our individual journeys into ministry. We met while doing ministry together.
Yeah.
Prior to even meeting Sam, as I was leading in my dad's church and also in other areas, I have two distinct memories of people basically saying, you're going to be a pastor.
Guest
you're going
ministers.
to lead, you're going to lead people. Get ready. That was probably early on in my college career. So it was one of those things that I was rejecting, but I was also like, I treasured it. Like till this day, I remember those two people. I remember the scenario. I remember where I was. So I feel like as we started this journey, God was reminding me, you know, like, yes, thank God for what you guys are doing together. But remember, I had even called you before you guys got together. I told you this before you guys got together. So when Sam and I started our relationship, while I was hesitant, I knew deep down that this is what the Lord would have us do together. And this is why he orchestrated, you know, for us to come together. Of course, we had our choice in it. We chose to be together. Yeah. And in choosing to be together, we were like, yeah, this is what we're going to commit our life to. Not at that time, it wasn't necessarily church planting. It was just ministry. Commit our lives to the work of ministry.
Yeah, we just knew early on that ministry was going to be our contribution, our body of work to the earth. Like, I believe, just, you know, taking a step back, I believe that everybody that's made in the Imago Dei, the image of God, I genuinely believe, saved or unsaved, that we all have a life we have something to contribute to this earth. Yeah. I believe God in the blessing, you know, be fruitful, multiply, have dominion, fill the earth, subdue it, you know, Genesis 1:26 and down, where it talks about that. I believe wrapped into that blessing is God saying, hey, I am putting you on this earth to contribute to this earth. And I genuinely believe that with all of my heart. And so we just found out early on that our contribution, our body of work that we're presenting unto God as an offering and to serve, you know, humanity is ministry. It's serving others spiritually. It's seeing people get reunited to the Father, preparing them for eternity, and just really grounding them in their faith and helping them put their trust in Jesus Christ. And so we knew that that's what we were called to do early on, but we didn't know what that would look like. Yeah. We didn't know what that would look like. And so I was serving at my former church. I really love it, Glory Center Family Church. I was a young adult pastor there, and it was great. It was a really good time where we had a young adult, I would say, movement. It was definitely movement happening. Impact was occurring. And Lou, you know, when we wedded, when we married, she came on and started helping, and things started growing and different things like that. So we knew that we were called to do ministry, and so we were doing ministry. And we were always saying our relationship, we are at our best when we're serving together. Like, we're at our best when we're doing ministry together. And so we were doing ministry together, and we were praying, and God was priming our hearts that, hey, the time for you to lead a church is coming. And that was during, again, our assignment as young adult pastors. We weren't really necessarily looking for it. We just sensed in our heart that God has called us to it. But again, we didn't really know what that would look like.
Yeah, we sensed that it was an eventuality.
Yeah, it was an eventuality. And so, long story short, out of nowhere, like, conversations had occurred between Lou and her dad.
No. Let me give the background on this part.
Sure, give the background to the part.
So, for this part of the story, it was like the end of the year, and my family had called a meeting, and my dad specifically asked to meet with me. In that meeting, or before that meeting, I told Sam, I said, I think he's going to ask us to come and help at Graceland. Yeah. I just sensed it in my heart, but it came from nowhere. Yeah. Like, there was no like indication that was what was going to happen. But for some reason, as we were kind of sensing the times and season, I felt like that was coming. So I had the meeting. That's exactly what happened at the meeting. Yeah. I came back. I told Sam his jaw was on the floor. I don't know. He's like, he was doubting my prophetic at that time, because he was like, dang, this girl's 2 for 2. You know?
Yeah. I guess I was doubt. I think I was just more so saying that. I think when you had brought it up initially, like, what if this happens? Yeah. I think my natural response was like, come on, that would never happen, because in a sense, and I'm gonna use this word, it was too easy. Like, it was like, well, we knew we were going to be leading a church someday. And it just, that would, like it just lining up that way where like, her dad come and ask us to take over and lead the church that he's leading. I mean, that's just too easy. Like that's just the attaboy. That's a softball. So I never really thought that is what was going to happen. So for sure, like she had mentioned, she had the meeting with her dad, and her dad indeed asked us to come in and step in and lead the church so he could focus on a different aspect of ministry. And so we prayed about it. We genuinely did pray about it. I can't remember the date, but it was sometime in, was it December? I can't remember when.
December of 2019.
Yeah, it was like December of 2019. There was conversations, and it was interesting because like that November, October prior, I've been having dreams and impressions that, again, something were to like the sense of like, hey, you're going to be leading at a different level. I kind of started sensing that. Then this happened in December. And so when everything, we prayed about it, and we were like, yeah, we sense a green light and to move forward. And so we moved forward in that. And so we started leading as lead pastors there in, or there was a transition to lead into lead pastors, and that had January 2020, like, so right before COVID. In fact, I look back on it and I'm like, man, God's hand was definitely,
the mercy of God.
God's hand was definitely leading us in that direction, because, man, if we weren't there before COVID, I just wouldn't have known, because you guys know how COVID was, where everybody was shut in their home.
Churches, yeah.
All churches were digital. And so it was a lot of churches struggled, especially the churches that were not in the digital space. They weren't equipped for it. And so I definitely see God's providence in all of that. And so anyways, we started leading there, and then one thing led to another, and one thing led to another, which we can disclose at another time because that's not the point. But one thing led to another. And so we sensed that we needed to change gears and change pace from that assignment. Although it was a good assignment, it wasn't what God was saying that was our forever. It was a temporary, not a permanent type situation. And so
it was a stop along the journey.
Sure. Yeah. A stop along the journey. So that's what it was. So we took time, and from there, so that had to have been April, May-ish 2020, like a thereabout. I can't fully remember, but it was at that time, you all, 2020, can't forget. That's when
everybody was online.
That's when everybody was online, but more specifically for us, that's when the pressure and trials and hardship, it started to dial up during 2020, because at that time, things were happening with our family of origin. We didn't know what next was going to look like as far as a ministry, what ministry assignment looked like. Honestly speaking, you all, I just felt like the Lord was like, hey, thank you so much for your service prior, but I'm putting you on the bench. I'm putting you as a reserve. I was confused. We were confused. We did not know what next was and looked like. And so, get to praying and get to leaning in during that time, because everybody's at home, and it was just the perfect time to just really lean in and ask the Lord, what would you have us do? But not only what would you have us do from a ministry perspective, but we were leaning into everything. I mean, every single foundational element of our lives was being tested, and it required us to lean in further to see, God, what are you saying? What are you doing? And so that was here's a big word, that was a catastrophic. That was a really pivotal time. It was also not only catastrophic, but it was a catalyst for us in our story and in our journey. And so we leaned in, asked the Lord, hey, what are you saying? What are you doing? There were a couple of things that came out of that season. One of the things that came out of that season was, I remember God saying, hey, Sam, and this is going to sound over spiritual, but one of the things that I felt in my heart, I cannot forget, I was walking, so our apartment was right near a train station. So I was walking along the side of the railing of the train station, and I remember as clear as day getting an impression in my heart with the thought in the phrase, hey, your calling is not attached to an institution, but your calling is attached to heaven. And all that simply means is that serving God is not just about it's not all about doing it at a specific institution or organized religion. And that was my paradigm at the time. I thought God would send me aside because I did not have a ministry position in an organized religion at that time, or institution, or at a church or a parachurch, whatever. And so a part of me thought that God was putting me off to the side because I didn't have a position. But God was saying, no, I'm actually refining your gift. I'm actually cultivating a conviction. I'm actually clarifying vision for you if you would lean into it. And so that was really encouraging for us. And out of that, we would do daily walks during that time. I actually missed those times where we would have daily walks and we would process life. We would process our marriage. We would process ministry, process vision. And out of that, it became abundantly clear to both of us that God was saying that he wanted us to plant a church, or to start a church, or launch a church, whatever vocabulary you are familiar with. He wants us to start a church rather than inheriting a church. And so that's where that easy part came into play. What I said earlier, that easy comment, because truth be told, we in a sense, given that responsibility of leading that church was in our wheelhouse. Quite honestly, dependency on God, there'll be moments of that, but because we were so used to leading in that kind of way, we knew that it was easier for us to rely on our skills, to rely on our giftings, to rely on our experiences rather than relying on God. And God was really highlighting that I'm going to hamstring the thing that you're experienced in so that you can step into unfamiliar territory, so that you can truly, genuinely trust me. And so when we began to do that, when we began to say, okay, God, what are you saying? He says, hey, I want you to launch a church. So this was in 2020. We're like, God, that's a big endeavor. What does that look like? What does that mean? How do we go from here? Obviously, we had our own fears based off of our own personalities and proclivities and, tendencies and different things like that. And so long story short, we said, okay, Lord, we're going to do it. We're going to trust you. We're going to walk out. We're going to walk out of the boat. We're going to try to walk on water, and we're going to meet you where you are, or where you're calling us. And so we said yes in 2020 to starting the journey of launching a church. And so from 2020, we started getting into training. Lou, you want to kind of talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So one thing, because I had come from a background of like church planters, like my non-negotiable was doing this alone and doing it by ourselves and doing it without resources. So I challenged Sam to really find resources and communities that we could tie into or be a part of in order to help us with this journey. And lo and behold, there's so many. One little thing that I will say is that I remember before when we were looking for all of these resources, looking for like podcasts that talk about this topic and looking for just information, it felt like before that there was a drought, like we couldn't find. There'll be like one podcast, one article. And then as we started this journey seeking out training, it felt like the heavens had opened and there was an abundance of resources, an abundance of information that we could actually be listened to and learn from. So we started that training journey in 2020, but we knew one thing, because we were trying to do it with resources, with help, not doing this alone, we knew that we wanted to give it time. And that's the good thing, like letting something really sit and really grow with time. So we were working on ourselves individually while we were also getting training, while we were working on our marriage, all of those things to make sure we were healthy and building a good foundation for what was to come. So in 2021, I remember that's when we went to our first like live training. It was hilarious. Like we were like hiding and ducking out, like,
what are we doing here? Why are we doing this? What is
happening?
What is going on with us?
So.
I mean, a lot of like, this is a joke. Like, nah, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. Like, let's go pause and pivot. And it was funny because actually during that time, we got connected to a life-giving church, Light City Church. Shout out to Light City, our fam, Pastor Bruce, Pastor Ratoya, we love them so much. They were actually very instrumental in during that time and during that season for us, because not only were we getting the training, but as Lou had mentioned, we were also getting healing.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that's so critical is how you leave a thing is how you start a thing. And so we knew that when we were leaving out of our last ministry opportunity, and just honestly the trauma that was COVID, right? We knew that we needed healing. We knew that we needed time.
Yeah.
And that's very important, because we started in 2020. I mean, like, again, so if you're following the journey, 2016, 2017 is when I, asked her out, and she already kind of sensed that. 2020, we finally come to terms with that, right? And so here we are now in 2021, 2022, like, all right, let's get that healing and training. And so Light City was that place for us. It was really good, really refreshing opportunity to just grow in, like I said, healing, grow in also confidence too, as well as re-engaging in the purposes and the plans of God for our lives and what that would look like. And so that training coupled with the healing and the confidence was just like the perfect mixture to be able to feel released in order to do it.
Yeah.
But I will say, we didn't just, so okay, we're getting healing, we're getting training, but then there comes the part where we have to actually submit it to somebody, right? Like, it wasn't just okay, we feel sense, we feel, I don't know, we just feel the stirring of the Lord. Let's just go at it. Let's take the hill. But we submitted to counsel. We submitted to those who are over us. We submitted to mentors, and we spent time, a year and a half, like, hey, like, what would you say about this, and what are your thoughts, and discerning and different things like that. And over the course of time, again, God has made it clear to us that this is where we should be going. This is the direction. This is the timing. This is the season to be doing what God is calling us to do. Yeah. And so here we are, you all. We're here, and we're super excited because we will be launching in fall of 2025 in Prince George's County, Maryland. And so I don't know, it's exciting, but not only is it exciting, it's also anything done in faith. I mean, we kind of romanticize what faith is. We feel like faith is 100% confidence, but that's actually not true. I suppose when Peter was walking on water, he was not, or when he was stepping out of the boat, I suppose that he wasn't as confident as how we kind of read into the text. I believe Peter was probably thinking, what is going to happen? And the same is true of us. While we're excited and expectant and have a holy anticipation for what God will do, we're also asking ourselves, God, what are you going to do? Mm-hmm. And so for us, that looks like, well, how can we really ask for as much prayer as possible? So kind of want to talk about 3 things you can do to help us and support us in this journey. Because, a lot of people ask during this time, like, hey, how can I help? What can I do? Is there anything I can? Here's 3 things that we believe that will be extremely helpful and pivotal in this journey. Number 1 is prayer. I can only imagine, again, using that story in Matthew chapter 14 of Peter stepping out of the boat to walk on water. That's just the story that's in me at the time of this recording. I'm sure the disciples that were in the boat, they weren't like, oh man, is Peter going to fail? I mean, maybe there were probably a couple. Maybe Andrew, his older brother, was probably like, this is Pete. He's going to fail. He's being ambitious. Maybe, or maybe they were also like, man, God, I pray that he actually walks on water. Mm-hmm. This would be good for the books. This would be good because it takes the power from just God, and it puts it on the fact that God can also translate power to man. And so I'm sure they were in the boat like, God, would you cause this to work? Would you work it out for Peter, and would everything work out perfectly? And I just believe that your prayer will make a significant difference in this journey, in this story that God is writing. So we encourage you to pray alongside of us. Number 2, if you're in the DMV area, if you're in the DMV area, hey, join the team. We need people to accomplish this. It's a saying that we've heard in sports. I'm in the sports world, so you always hear those cliches. It takes a It takes teamwork to make the dream work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there it is. It takes teamwork to make the dream work. And so I do ask that you would consider joining the team if you're in the DMV area. And then number 3, make a generous gift. You can generously give to what we're doing here. We all know that it takes money to move anything in this world. And so encourage you to make a generous gift. So again, you can pray for us, join the team, or you can give. But we're excited, and we know that the best is yet to come, and we're so grateful that you guys get to be a part of this journey.
Yes. Do you want to do some rapid fire questions?
Sure. I mean, I can't say no. So.
Okay. All right. So rapid fire, how did we come up with the name Genesis?
We didn't even tell them that it's Genesis. So the church name is Genesis, guys.
I mean, it's coming from the social media announcement, we assume.
Okay, so where did we come up with the name?
How did we come up with Genesis?
Did we come up with the name Genesis? Do you want to give a shot at it?
Yeah, so again, going back to that 2020 time period where we felt like the Lord was calling us to launch a church. We were going through a season of transition, and in that season of transition, I would constantly say that it felt like we were starting our ministry journey, or even our faith journey in a way, all over again.
That is true.
So it felt like a new beginning. And of course, with new beginnings, that brought up the name Genesis. So that's why the name of the church is Genesis Church, where new beginnings are possible with God, and just motivating and not even just motivating, but really ministering to people that are going through transition or feel like they can't start again, and letting them know that it is possible to start again and again and again with God. So yes, that's how the name came about.
I love it. You said it better than I could, honestly. So
okay,
maybe I should ask you a rapid fire question.
Okay, what's the question?
No, I was just saying maybe I should. No, you should keep asking.
Okay. So, what would you say to people who say that we already have a lot of churches?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that is, you will hear that a lot. Like, hey, like there's already churches here. There's already good churches. Why start another? Well, number one, we know that let's just talk about it from a statistics perspective. In Prince George's County alone, there are, 1 million people, close to 1 million people who reside in Prince George's County. So there is so many people that are not being reached right now. And there are a lot of great churches, and we just want to come alongside to make our contribution as well. And so that's the number one reason for us on a personal level, that there's 1 million people just in PG County. For those who do not live in PG County, Maryland, PG County, Maryland is actually it's a county within Maryland, but Maryland is a part of a tri-state. So actually it's DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So when you think about Maryland, you're just not thinking about Maryland. You're thinking about Maryland, DC, and Virginia kind of as one. And within that sphere of alone, I mean, you're talking about over 10 million people. I can't remember the statistics, but there's so many people within just the 3 states. And so that alone gives reason to say that there are actually not enough churches. There are not enough churches reaching these people who are far from Christ, and strengthening people that are walking towards Christ. And so that's very, very critical for sure.
I can add to that. And also one thing that I just really learned along this journey is like church is like any organization, thriving organization that we see. As organizations become older, they are also handing things off. And in order to hand things off, there have to be new organizations in place in order to accept the growth and accept that transfer. So that's why you see new companies started on a consistent basis. It's that same thought process that I have learned through this time. Like, you want to make sure that churches are being planted. So as the county gets older as well, that there are churches in order to hand things over to.
For sure.
Next question.
Yes.
Is this going to be a home church?
No. I was not prepared for that, but no, it's not. It's not going to be a home church.
Well, how would you describe it?
It will be a church that is in the community.
The meeting location, I guess.
Yeah. So essentially, one of our visions and hearts is that we don't just want to build a church. We actually want to bless a city. And that comes from Jeremiah 29:3 and down. It talks about how God says, if you seek the prosperity of the city, you yourself in turn will be blessed. And so when we think about planting Genesis Church, It's about how can we build a spiritual community that in turns goes out and bless the city. So our mindset is to be missional focused. Missional focus just mean that we're not just going to keep good services within the four walls, but we actually want to take the four walls out to the community and be a blessing. And so in order for us to do that, we need to kind of start in the community. And while, you know, home is a good place, it is in a community, we actually want to rally and start with a notifiable place within a community. And so we're going to meet, you know, in a school. That's what we're looking at right now. But in general, that's the heart, to really bless the city. We want to come and serve alongside of people in the city. We want to come and serve schools. We want to come and serve the residents within the community. We just really want to make a difference. So no, not necessarily a home church, but it will have home church vibes. If you know anything like me, if you know anything like us, we're very to host. Yep. So yeah. We're very hospitable folks. Well, we would like to think ourselves that way, and we are growing. And you know, it's kind of weird to be like we are this, but we are growing and learning, and our heart is to be hospitable and to make people feel welcome. And so we want to believe and hope and trust that that's the kind of feel that you will feel if you know, come alongside us, or you know, be a part of what God is gonna do and is already doing in PG County for sure.
Yeah. That's all I have.
All right, guys. Well, hey, we're super excited. We thank you so much for being on this journey. Pray for us. That's the biggest thing. Yes. All right. God bless you, fam. We love you so much. I got to do it. Ah, there you go. Bless you guys.